to get the latest on the ground. The background to the story: rival factions have staged a sit-in outside the parliament in Baghdad. Very briefly, let's remind you, the streets of the capital yesterday gripped by protests calling for a new government. Let's bring in to this ENSA correspondent Ollie Barrett, who's joining us from inside Iraq, I understand. There he is in Baghdad. Hello to you, Ollie. Hope all is well, hope all is safe at the moment, because we have seen some violent scenes in some areas around Baghdad. Just bring us up to speed what we're looking like today.
That's right. I'm in Erbil, Gareth, in the north of Iraq, and in Baghdad what we're seeing today is ongoing protests by both sides in what is now a long-running political deadlock. It's 10 months since Iraq had elections, and we still don't have a fully formed, fully functioning government in this country. We have on the one side the Shia coordination framework, it's called, which is pro-Iran, and it wants a government to be formed and it wants a cabinet to be able to get on with the work of governing. But on the other side you have the supporters of the cleric Muqtada al-Sadr, also a Shia, but he is very much against Iranian influence in this country, and he wants there to be snap elections. He wants the parliament to be dissolved. He wants to be able to try and form a government without that Iranian influence, without that pro-Iranian involvement. So we're really at a standoff here. We saw major demonstrations yesterday right across Iraq in city after city after city, demonstrations and counter-demonstrations from both sides. Up to this point, for the most part, these demonstrations have been peaceful, but as I say, we're now seeing ongoing rival sit-ins outside the parliament in Baghdad, with both sides digging into their positions, and many ordinary Iraqis just saying, look, it's 10 months now since we had elections. We need a functioning government to deal with all sorts of issues in the country, not least the problems that we're seeing caused by an ongoing heat wave.
Yeah, the heat wave is certainly not helping at all, this political vacuum which the country is dealing with at the moment. I'm seeing that thousands of Muqtada al-Sadr followers, they're praying outside Parliament, and we're seeing as well the populist leader wanting, I'm just getting reports from the area you're in now, to dissolve Parliament by the end of next week. I'm sure that's going to be pushed up as well, that demand. So is that what you're still hearing on the ground now, a dissolving of Parliament, Ollie?
That's right, very much so. Those supporters of Muqtada al-Sadr are absolutely in line with his call for Parliament to be dissolved by the end of next week. But it's a very difficult one to achieve. You need the backing of the Parliament for that, and it doesn't look like that is going to be able to take place. And so in a sense, the stalemate continues. If anything, it is actually becoming more and more entrenched. Clearly the international community looking on with very interested eyes because of all of the regional issues that are taking on, that are at play here. But yes, Muqtada al-Sadr continuing those calls for Parliament to be dissolved, but the opposition to his view from those coordination framework supporters is that they think the Parliament shouldn't be dissolved. They think the Parliament should be properly functioning. A government should be formed and able to get on with the job of managing the affairs of the country.
The Iraqi finance minister as well talking about how this is going to be unsettling the economy for the region. As we all know, Ollie, very, very tenuous political situation in that region, Iraq, Iran and all of its neighbours. Something like this not going to help the economy as all, as investors are watching this, waiting for some kind of stability, but they haven't had it for 10 months. It comes down to the economy as well, doesn't it?
It always comes down to the economy, and the Iraqi economy has competing influences at the moment. You have that very high oil price, which in many ways is good for the Iraqi economy. It means more revenue flowing into Baghdad, more revenue flowing in to Erbil here in the north, but at the same time it means for consumers on the ground, like it does in country after country around the world, a higher price at the petrol pump, for example. Petrol prices here in Iraq have been really incredibly cheap compared to what you would find in other countries around around the world, partly because of the huge levels of production that there are here when it comes to oil. But consumers here have seen those prices at the pump really increasing a long way over the last 6 months or so, partly because of all the international factors that are weighing on other economies as well. And the heat is also having an impact on all of that as well, because it's meaning that people can't go out to work for as long as they normally would. It's meaning public sector workers being given holidays at time because of the intense temperatures. And for those people who are still going out to work, it's really making conditions very, very difficult indeed when you're seeing in some parts of the country temperatures up around or even above 50 degrees Celsius, sometimes for days on end.
Well, Ollie Barrett, for the moment, please stay in the shade and stay safe. As well, I'm sure we'll come back to you again inside Iraq for us. ENCA correspondent Ollie Barrett, all to do with a call for early elections. This political vacuum certainly causing chaos, and various factions are saying they have now had enough.